afternoon to our audience. It's an absolute pleasure to have with me today Rick. Rick is founder and owner of Bearclaw Industries. It's a pleasure to have you here with me today. If you could please tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Sure, thank you, and thanks for having me today, Jorge. Rick McLean, I'm a First Nation person from up in northern Canada in British Columbia, and I'm from a tribe called the Tahltan people, or the Tahltan. We have been miners since obsidian was the commodity, and mining has been a way of life for us since time immemorial. So it's been a natural path to working in the industry now after many years. Not only working in the mines, but I took on a leadership role for about a decade as chief of my nation, 2008 to 2020. Worked and created a lot of major mining projects, negotiated a lot of big deals, creating wealth and jobs, and created a way of life up here that most around the world doesn't have the pleasure to have. And so one of the things that I thought about when I built Bearclaw Industries was the ability to reach out to our brothers and sisters across the world and help them with their nation's negotiations with mining companies and major projects. And so that's one of my side jobs, is to be able to get out and consult and help nations get the benefits they deserve in major projects in their territories.
That's just very insightful, and that's really great work, and it's really interesting. I love to hear that. Well, you were Tahltan chief from 2008 to 2020. That is so interesting, and love the projects. They don't fail more because of engineering, but mostly because of the governance and community misalignment. So, from your experience as former chief, Tahltan chief, and now as project partner, what would you say? What would you say it takes to move a project from proposal to completion without losing Indigenous support along the way?
Well, a lot of the process is to engage early and often, and as well as really bring in your community along on a consultation process that may take a couple of years. Discovery right through to construction and operations. But a lot of the projects that we built, it was a 2-year paperwork exercise, negotiating the benefits to the community. We call them IBAs, impact benefit agreements, and really working with the company as well as other levels of government to get projects through to construction phases. Not all projects are supported, right? Some projects are not very well supported, and it has to be documented early on that they're not supported by a nation. But the ones that are done well, and the outcomes are not only good for our people, but the people in the province or the country or place that they're coming from. So it's pretty exciting to be able to help pull those and negotiate those agreements in a way that they're very fulsome and very beneficial to everybody, particularly the nation that's being impacted.
It is really exciting, and it's really great work, because especially who else is going to negotiate for them? You know, who else would be the voice to make sure that the benefits and the attention needed, and all the regulations and all of the structures in place in order to protect, the people who live there, the communities who potentially are unable, or don't have the tools or what is needed to be able to influence these large projects. So could I, before we dive into the technical of Bearclaw Industries, could you tell me, how did you find yourself in the mining industry? I mean, you said we've been doing it for a really long time. Did it find you, or did you find it?
Well, I needed a job in the winter months. I was a guide outfitter for many years, and I lived on the land and watched projects being explored, and I was always out, boots on the ground, We had 40 head of horses running big strings across the land, doing some great things as adventures, guiding hunters and picture seekers and nature lovers alike. But that was only very seasonal for me, and I needed to work in the winter. So the mining industry provided a way for me to get in and work in the winter months as a loader operator, and later on I became a welder fabricator and worked a lot in the industry, building and we're doing mill maintenance and working right inside the nuts and bolts of these large operations.
Very interesting. Yeah, of course. So you've worked in many different departments, from like you said, the operators, from the mills. You've done it all. So it's a very extensive background, and it's great to see that you've been able to be exposed to all of these different types of jobs. At what point did you see the need for the community assistance, or at what point did you see the need for this sort of structure to make sure that the community gets their benefits and the indigenous people are able to be protected?
Very early on, as a worker in the mine and as an employee, I seen that our people were we just got jobs, and a lot of them are low level jobs, either doing dishes or cleaning rooms or being a laborer, right? So as I seen previous leadership make agreements with mining companies, we looked at what those agreements were. We moved on from the basic jobs phase to add several more pieces into an agreement. So when I first got elected in 2008, the commodities world crashed in 2007. There wasn't a whole lot going on, and there was a lot of pressure on leadership to make something happen. So when industry came to us and said, "Okay, we have this run a river project, power and sell it to the province of BC," we looked at building our own negotiating team and really looking at the project through our lens. And our negotiating team was our leaders, our lawyers, our environmental folks, right? So it was a full Tahltan negotiating team that went in and created, looked at the projects through our own lens, rather than going out bringing in non-First Nation negotiators or consultants who didn't know the land or our people as deeply as we did. So we took it on ourselves. We did bring in expertise where we needed it. For the most part, we negotiated our own deals, but we had to look at the past and the deals that were done, projects previous. How do we move tomorrow and bring up the bar, raise the bar on not only jobs and contracts, but environmental standards? A big thing for our people, making sure we do these projects environmentally friendly as possible, right? So raising those standards. How do we structure the revenue streams? How do we structure the pieces of engagement with the people that we need to get, rather than just running off and doing it and then telling our people this is what it is? We created a whole regime of community engagement, which we went out and talked to the community early and often. Not only as a negotiating team, but as a project proponents, we drug them along with us so that they can talk about their project. And then we talked about our involvement and how we planned on working with these folks to create the benefits. And then we heard from our people in all of those sessions, not only in the territory, but we traveled throughout BC and Canada to all of our communities where we have pockets of Tahltans living, and we gathered input from all over. And we take that input back to our team, put it in the agreement, and then come up with a final document 2 years later. And then we had a referendum on it and voted on it. And doing that in the engagement system that we had, 80, 90% a yes vote, right? So that's doing quality engagement and engaging early and often with everybody creates positive outcomes.
It's really great. As you pointed out, that's with these environmental practices and most environmental impact, happens during the exploration and construction, but yet some companies delay that environmental, social, and governance action until actual operations begin. Could you tell me a little bit about why do these companies wait, and what are some practical ESG steps that they should implement in like the earliest stages of a project?
The word of the day is ESGs, we know we always look back and call them social impacts or community impacts, right?
Oh yeah.
Those stuff early on in the exploration phase of projects that you can start gathering data that could be used throughout the life of the project. So wildlife studies, plant studies, archaeology work on the ground, fill in that database. If there's chance find procedures that are developed for artifacts from our people being there for thousands of years. And really that stuff, it's not about finding a old camp and shutting the project down. It's about finding those old camps, those use places, documenting them, protecting that specific spot if the nation needs to, or securing everything. But also it's about, yes, we were here. Proof that we used and occupied these lands. So that's why those archaeology finds and sites are so important for us, because it shows that use and occupancy is a real thing. So, when a project comes along and they say, "Oh, well, nobody's here, there's no evidence," and you start digging around and then you find the evidence, well, then it gives proof to the importance that we are negotiating an impact benefits agreement, because you're impacting our lands. So that is a
Yeah,
really key
of
piece of
course.
that. And there's
That's
tools
the
like
key
that I
piece.
found that one of our things is RFID tagging and ecosystem mapping that we like to bring to the table that you can use early in a project. So you start filling a database with those heritage finds, trail systems, whose territory it's on, and you can fill that whole database with all the evidence you need to uh, move forward in the project and record and document all those things. So that's an early low-hanging fruit that can be used, that should be used, and is
Oh
necessary for
yeah.
projects to go ahead, right?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, yes. So you are working with a patented RFID tracking system that solves real compliance and documentation challenges. Could you expand a little bit into that, and as to the services that it provides and why it could solve certain challenges in the mining industry?
Absolutely. So not only documenting and mapping and knowing where things are, you can track your assets. So if you have large components being made in Peru and they need to get to site, we can send our devices down there, attach it to those modules or those pieces, and you can track it across the world to site, to a laydown yard. A lot of times you get a big construction laydown yard that's 500 acres and you got thousands of pieces of equipment. If they're tagged properly, you can go in there and you can find that valve or that beam or that piece of pipe or that pump that needs to go into the building next very easily. Right now, a lot of the laydown yards and people is two guys in a pickup driving around a laydown yard for 2 days to find a specific piece of equipment. And up here in the north, it gets even harder when you end up with 2, 3, 4 feet of snow covering everything up. So you can read these tags; it'll take you right to it, and then you're saving time and money by knowing where your stuff is, right? And
It's
you can
very
track
useful.
it. So it's
Very
a very, very
useful.
good piece.
Yeah, it sounds very useful. Definitely, I know we're definitely gonna need that down here in Peru, definitely. So that's a good piece of information. So in terms of the RFID services and the tracking, so what other services would you say are of high demand for Bearclaw Industries? What else is a solution or challenges that has high demand for solution that Bearclaw Industry provides?
Yeah. So looking at projects on and really picking low hanging fruits, especially in areas where we can reduce GHGs or and implement environmental performances. So one of the things I've seen that a lot of camps and a lot of projects are running on diesel generators, right? So I promote propane power generation. So we're reducing GHGs by 40%. We're reducing diesel costs by 40%. The propane power generators that we use are the top generators in the world. So they run very, very flawless. We've had them on sites running for 2 years steady now and haven't had a problem. So being able to turn your camps into propane power gen or using your pumps or stuff where you need to have remote power, here's the easy one. Use propane power gen. It's taken a while because you get people on these sites who are old school. They don't believe propane power generation, propane motors aren't that good. Well, they are that good now. That was 30 years
Amazing.
ago. So now you're using modern technology to help reduce that cost, especially if you have availability of propane. And if you have that availability, you're definitely going to reduce your cost a lot as opposed to diesel. So that's one of the little areas
Amazing.
that you can. It's low hanging fruit on a project, right? You don't have to
Oh
wait to
yeah.
get to operations to start implementing some of these things. So you look good right off the bat that you're committed to the environment, you're committed to doing things properly, and it shows that to the people and area that you're working in, right?
It's very important. That's very important. And that's yeah, if we're talking from the community perspective and the social perspective, it's a definitely great feature to have. It's definitely great to be able to show that to the communities. Are there any adoption so yeah, you definitely were mentioning that some of these operations or these projects, they believe that propane powered generators like are not as efficient as, let's say, like a diesel or any other traditional methods. Apart from like the efficiency, are there any other like challenges in adoption? Like, is there a concern as to the price of it or the ROI, or any other like challenges that you'd say in adoption when it comes to offering these sort of propane power generators?
There's assumptions, and those assumptions are just that. And what we like to do when we talk to a proponent about it, we'll do a full analysis on what you're using now, what are your costs now, and here's what we propose, and here's how we're going to reduce your costs. So
Amazing.
you make it very easy for them to understand the math to it and the efficiency of it, right? So, and that's just been one of these things that people are having a little bit of hard time that understanding these things are just or way more efficient than your traditional diesel power generators. And if we want to do our
Amazing.
part in the world to reduce greenhouse gases, this is the way to start doing that, and you look good doing it.
Are there any new regions or new business endeavors that Bearclaw Industries is looking to enter to or overcome this in this next year? Anything like that you would say you're new that you're excited about that's new and in Bearclaw Industry that you could even talk about on a high level?
Absolutely, yeah. We like to look at a lot of different things, but a lot of it's always pertained to bringing solutions to projects. So that's
Amazing.
that's the big key piece here. One of the things that we've known most recently, a lot of wildfires in BC, in Canada, uh, in the States. I know there's a lot of California. Every place is burning up. So one of the things I've came across was a wildfire protection unit that's basically self-contained. It's in a 20-foot sea can. We hold 3,500 gallons of water. We got a arm that goes up 30 feet in the air, and you can remote activate it. Once you set it up and it's full of water, you can leave it by your camp, by your lodge, by your important infrastructure if you have fire coming, or you can line them up and make a wall of defense towards the community. And
Amazing.
it'll make it rain for 90 minutes as a wildfire is approaching, and you can protect your assets that way remotely. So you don't need anybody on the ground once it's set up. You can activate the sprinkler from your phone from wherever you are in the world. So it's an
So
exciting
amazing.
last line of defense type of water sprinkler in a can, basically, that is very crucial. When communities are evacuated, you still have this last line of defense, because my community got burnt out in 2018 in Telegraph Creek. Once the power went down, we lost we lost everything. No power to the pumps, no power to the pump house. So your traditional water systems are no longer functioning. This unit, you still have that 90 minutes of rain that you have in your back pocket if you have it available and ready to turn on. And there's a camera so you can watch and you know when you want to turn it on. You can see the embers start falling in the area, and you just turn the sprinkler on and it'll give you that last little line of defense. Make it rain for 90 minutes, usually the time it takes for a fire to burn through, right? So plenty of time, plenty of water, and plenty of protection.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And is this just pertaining to the region that you're in, or in Canada, or is this on long term? You're looking to have this like international, like go to other places?
We'd love to do that for sure. Right now, I'm just signed a distributorship for BC and Yukon, but we're
Hmm.
helping we're helping the company. He's another First Nations fellow who's building these things. So you got two First Nation business working together to bring great solutions to and protection to communities. One of the great
It's
things about
beautiful.
these things is we can roll them out. We can produce one a week if when we get the orders. Right now in Canada, a lot of communities are on a wait list for fire trucks. So that
My
fire
God.
truck delivery is up to 3 to 4 years right now. And
Yeah.
a fire truck costs $1.5 million. So
Um,
you can buy 10 of these units, 12 of these units for a price of a fire truck, and you only need one person to operate it. A fire truck takes a whole crew, right? So
oh yeah.
these are good tools to have in your community or on the job to protect remote wilderness camps uh, that that need that type of service. So I thought it was a great thing, and it was a good thing to add to the Bearclaw tool belt, and we love it.
That
And
is
we're
great. That is really great. In BC, and forgive me if I'm uncultured or not, or I'm not sure about this. In BC, is are voluntary firemen like a thing? Like, do people do voluntary firemen? Oh, that is a thing, right? Like
it is a thing. Yeah, they have volunteer fire
there are volunteers.
departments. Yeah.
Okay, just curious about that. Like, yeah, that it would take a large crew, and then it's even though they're volunteering, obviously, it takes work. It takes a lot of it will investment in the not just the truck, like the station, all of the assets. So it seems like a great solution to have in the back pocket, just in case if there's a wildfire, and just in case if a community hasn't yet received the funding to get these fire crew or fire trucks. That's absolutely incredible. I want to take a quick pivot and just ask about this topic because makes me curious. Around the office or within your team, is there any talk about how you and your team are implementing artificial intelligence or any of these sort of new technologies within either your workflows or within the solutions that you provide for your clients?
I'm trying to learn a bit about it right now myself. I'm a little bit old school guy, so using Chat GPT and some of the marketing stuff that we're doing is done through AI already through that. So it's coming along, and yes, it's the way of the future, and we need to embrace it and use it to the best of our ability. A lot of times right now we find that there's not enough people to do the work,
Yeah.
and we need
Oh, yeah.
to embrace these areas to get that work done, or it's very expensive. The you look at the web design folks, who charged a fair amount of money to get a web page done. Now you can do it through AI very quickly and very reasonable. So
Yeah.
it's going to do a lot for marketing and um, just organizing meetings and taking care of stuff like that. So I'm really looking forward to being able to incorporate it a lot more, and it makes everybody's job a little easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then that's a conversation topic that it has different perspectives, and especially in the mining industry and in industrial sector in general, there's it's a very traditional industry, with traditional methods, and there's all sorts of perspectives on as to whether it's actually correct correct to use in certain different aspects, or whether like it's even productive or whether it's not productive. And there's so many different uses in it. So it's always great to hear our leaders in the industry hear their thoughts as to whether they're adopting it or whether they're seeing issues or seeing challenges with it, or even how they're using it. That's actually very insightful, because it's very true that artificial intelligence helps so much in terms of either publicity or assisting with market research or niche research, or even just getting a good message out. It's a great tool. instead of uh instead of having a fully generated like AI, like a descriptor or something like that. It's always great to have people in leadership, to be able to be there and read it and actually decide as if whether it's actually makes sense or not, because it always makes mistakes. So my question is that where you would see the most potential assistance or the most use of these new technology in marketing efforts and publicity and just like outreach in general? Is that where you see where it could help you the most?
That's right. That's where we're using it right now, mostly, for sure. I haven't used it to write any speeches for me yet. I probably should, maybe, but it's yeah, definitely a good tool in that marketing research side of stuff, right? Looking for things that you need information on. It's a great tool for all of that type of stuff. It's very quick. It's responsive. Uh, it can save you a lot of time and effort, much like
I agree.
the technologies that we offer with our RFID tagging system that we have. You can upload documents instantaneously, right? So in, like,
Yeah.
for example, in the pipeline field, we could put a tag on a pipe or a valve and it goes in the ground, and you can read that tag from anywhere in the world. You can bring up the information on there that's like who welded it, who inspected it, who stamped it, right? Whose territory it's on. You have all this stuff inside this tag that it's readable right now. So if there is a pipeline break or breach or incident, you can go and get all those files immediately within seconds, right? Rather than what a lot of projects right now, a lot of the big pipelines are still doing it. It's all paper, right? So you got a team of people looking for 2 months to track down the paper on a specific weld. Whereas if you had our technology, it tells you instantaneously. It saves you millions of dollars on manpower, documents. If it's all put in there properly, those documents at your fingertips anywhere all the time, so that when the regulators come knocking, you hand them a tablet and say, here's everything you're looking for, right?
Incredible.
So it makes projects much more efficient like that. So yeah,
Absolutely.
technology, AI, that stuff is very useful in those circumstances.
It's very interesting what you just said, because yes, chain of custody, and reporting standards or just traceability in general of your data is absolutely an amazing place, amazing practice to be able to incorporate technology. Because as you say, when the regulator comes and is knocking on the door, like instead of having to sift through, even just manual documents, it's a really great tool to have the technology, and that's very refreshing to hear that's what Bearclaw Industries is doing with their RFID tracking system. So if someone wanted to learn more about these services and someone wanted to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach you? And what's the best way to learn more about this?
You can email me, rmclean@bearclawindustries.ca, and that's where you'll find me. You can probably go to our website and have a look at, which does need to be upgraded as well. It's a work in progress. I guess they all are, but I'm always happy to reach out, and if a community, no matter where you are in the globe, is having difficulties or needs help with negotiating with mining companies, that's one of the things that we like to do, and making sure that we bring there's 7 pieces of an agreement that you really want when you're negotiating a project. And number one is always your environmental. You always want employment and training on a project. You want business and contracts for your community. You want community investment through infrastructure and housing. You want financial participation, like equity in the project or royalties that benefit from the project as well. And then you also want to make sure you have governance and implementation in those agreements inside the project, right? Which is a big one. and you need to be able to implement it. You can make a great deal on paper, but you got to implement it as well. So making sure that's in there, and then finally, you need the consent of your people. So those
Yes.
7 pieces are key elements to negotiate and creating a good agreement for anybody, no matter where you're at in the world, when you're dealing with project and proponents who are proposing large projects like mines or pipelines, right?
So that's so useful. As you said, it's important to understand the full scope of what could potentially be achieved. A good negotiation is not where one wins or the other wins and the other gets less. It's both of us walk away happy. Everyone walks away winning. A good negotiation result is everyone wins. But how do we achieve that? There has to be an education. There has to be a sort of expert who understands on how these deals work, how they're closed, what is it, what is leverage, what is using the leverage that you have, not against them, but just using it in general to be able to find the best deal for the two of us. So I think that's genius. Great service on not just saving lives from wildfires or providing technological tracking services all around the world, but also assisting communities in how to best manage and direct these deals to the finish line. Great service. I love it, Rick. So great. So we know how to reach you. We know how to learn more about you. Thank you so much for being here today with me, Rick, and thank you for our audience for listening. And we'll see you next week. And thank you so much, Rick, for being here.
I do. Thank you so much.